Today we're unpacking something we can literally all relate to, 10 daily habits that changed my life. But hey, we're not just going to run through some random list of productivity hacks, right? We're actually going to map these out chronologically. So by the end of this, you're going to have a rock-solid, step-by-step game plan to take complete control of your day, literally from the minute you open your eyes until your head hits the pillow. Now, before we jump into the habits themselves, I want you to just think about the number 4,000. Seriously, 4,000. Because if you live an average human lifespan, 4,000 is the exact number of weeks you get. Kind of a jarring realization, isn't it? It means time is absolutely the rarest, most precious capital you're ever going to manage. Think about it. You can always earn a bit more money, you can always build up a new network, but once a week is gone, it's gone for good. Zero refunds. And this whole idea actually stems from high-performance coach Jake Smolarek. He puts it perfectly. The 4,000 weeks philosophy is not about doing more. It's about doing what actually compounds. So to make absolutely sure we aren't just wasting those precious weeks rehearsing busyness, we're going to walk through these 10 powerful daily habits like a day in the life. This is exactly how you build that unstoppable momentum and make every single hour count.
Okay, Section 1, winning the morning routine. A perfect start.
So habit 1 is waking up early. Yeah, I know, we all know we should do it, but the science from Manipul Signa really shows us the why behind the physical biology. See, waking up with the sun actually syncs your circadian rhythm with natural light. That morning sunlight exposure, it instantly boosts serotonin production, which completely elevates your mood. Plus, physically, it sets your immune system and your cardiovascular function up for success by regulating cortisol. Oh, and it naturally pushes you to make healthier breakfast choices just because you aren't sprinting out the front door.
All right, so once you're out of bed, habit 2 is silencing the mind. Based on some amazing research from Neurozone, sitting in complete silence for just 15 minutes physically calms down your amygdala, the fear center of the brain, and shifts your body right into a relaxed physiological state. But here's the crazy part. It actually promotes the formation of brand new brain cells in the hippocampus. So you're literally rewiring your brain for clarity and focus before the day's chaos even gets a chance to start. Next up, we have habit 3, morning intention setting. Instead of immediately panicking over a massive to-do list, just take a breather. Coach Simone Ansbach recommends using some really powerful prompts. Ask yourself stuff like, what do I need to be at my best today? What's my core intention? What are my top 3 priorities? The absolute key here is that we are asking what questions, not how questions. What questions drive productive self-insight? How questions? Well, they usually just trap us in endless rumination and anxiety, and we definitely don't want that. Moving on to Section 2, daytime focus and execution. How to execute without burnout. Habit 4 brings us to this brilliant concept called Kaizen, which basically means making these tiny 1% daily improvements that actually stick. And to pull this off, we use the 5S framework from Talify: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Just think of it like deep cleaning a messy room, but you're applying it to your workflow. First, you sort and toss out the junk tasks. Then, you organize what's actually left, keep your workspace clean, create some standard rules, and finally, sustain those new habits. The whole trick is to make the changes so ridiculously small that they're easy, but man, do they compound over time. Now, to actually execute on those tasks, you need pure focus. So, habit 5 is a partial digital detox. There's this super encouraging data from a Georgetown University study on this. They found that only 25% of people could actually pull off a total, strict, dumb phone detox. But hey, do not let that discourage you, because a massive 66% of the folks who failed the full detox still drastically improved their attention spans just by cutting back on screen time. In fact, these partial detoxes were shown to reverse the equivalent of 10 years of age-related cognitive decline. Moderation is an absolute superpower here. Of course, eventually that initial excitement for your work is going to fade. That's just life. So habit 6 is committing to no 0% days, so you can survive what's called the 10-80-10 rule. See, the first 10% of any project, pure electric excitement. But weeks 2 through 12, that is the middle 80%. That's the brutal, unsexy grind where motivation goes to die, and honestly, where 99% of people end up quitting. But if you refuse to let yourself have a 0% day and you just push through that valley, you hit the final 10% where unstoppable momentum and total mastery finally take over. Now, surviving that brutal 80% middle, that requires absolutely ruthless prioritization. Enter the Buffett 5-25 move. Here's what you do.
You write down your top 25 goals, you circle the top 5, and then you aggressively avoid the other 20. The real kicker here is realizing those 20 other goals aren't your backup plan. They are literal distractions trying to steal your finite time. You have to cut 70% of your filler tasks and treat absolutely anything outside your top 5 as a direct threat to your 4,000 weeks.
All right, let's jump to Section 3, the truth about consistency, building sustainable habits. Habit 7 completely shatters this huge myth in habit formation that actually popped up in a really insightful Reddit discussion recently. Think about that famous don't break the chain streak mentality. It demands 100% absolute perfection. The problem with that? All or nothing thinking is literally a massive predictor of habit failure. Because the second you get a cold and break that streak, your motivation completely tanks. So instead, try the flexible approach. Aim for consistency just 5 out of 7 days a week. This 80% method gives you built-in breathing room for travel and sick days, which makes the habit sustainable for years, not just a couple of days.
And what about those truly terrible, completely exhausting days? That's when you pull out the minimum viable habit. This is the absolute smallest possible version of your habit, like doing just 5 minutes of stretching instead of a full 30-minute workout. When you use a minimum viable habit, you aren't trying to build up the physical skill that day. You're just maintaining your self-identity. You're proving to yourself that you didn't skip it entirely, and you're keeping the core of that habit alive.
Which brings us to Section 4, recharging in the evening. Recover to conquer.
So, Habit 8 is a really specific type of gratitude journaling that uses a 60-second voice script. Research shows that generic lists, like just saying I'm thankful for my family, well, they become a rote routine and totally lose their impact. To make this a true brain-altering practice, you have to list 3 highly specific sensory things you're grateful for. Then, you absolutely must add a why to force your brain into deeper processing. And lastly, identify one repeatable action you're going to take tomorrow based on whatever went well today.
Moving on to Habit 9, which is carving out time to read every single day. There's a great saying for this. Those 10 quiet minutes a day are like a mental gym session, small, consistent, and transformative. Seriously, just 10 minutes of deep reading, and I mean reading an actual book, not doom scrolling on a screen, physically reshapes your brain. It builds up your empathy, and it acts as this incredible neurological shield that can actually lower your risk of dementia later down the road.
And finally, we arrive at Habit 10, fiercely, and I mean fiercely, protecting your sleep/wake cycle. Look, sleep isn't just your body turning off for the night. When you get that optimal 7 to 9 hours, your brain enters a highly active state. Your hypothalamus and brainstem are working overtime while your hippocampus is busy consolidating everything you learned that day into long-term memory. It really is the ultimate, non-negotiable recovery tool for both your body and your mind.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one vital question. How are you going to spend your next week? Remember, if you only get 4,000 weeks on this earth to make your impact, which of these 10 daily habits are you going to start using today to make sure your next 7 days actually count? It's your time. Protect it, design it, and go make it legendary.